of State James Baker, who is on a trip throughout the Commonwealth nations, arrived in Ashgabat today for negotiations with President Niyazov. The main theme was the establishment of diplomatic relations. Today, Baker left for a one-day visit to Dushanbe. The great powers in the 19th century competed for influence in Central Asia, and now the time is right. Today, James Baker was received by the Republican President Rahman Nabiev. The Secretary of State and the Tajik President met behind closed doors, but then held a short press conference. James Baker and Rahman Nabiev expressed their satisfaction with the results of the negotiations, which were devoted to the possibility of establishing diplomatic relations. They also considered economic issues related to Tajikistan's transition to market relations. Serbia and Chernogor have decided to live in a single state and claim the right of succession to the Yugoslav state. This was the decision at a meeting of representatives of these republics today, but they agreed to accept as members former Yugoslav republics as well. In the United Nations, they're discussing the Somalian situation. According to General Secretary Boutros Ghali, the preliminary stage of negotiations between the two fighting sides were productive, but the issue of sending peacekeeping forces was not considered. Hundreds of refugees from Somalia arrive in Kenya every day, fleeing the civil strife there. In September of last year, over 600 people died in camps from hunger and disease. Most of them are children under 5 years old. The main problems are the absence of water. People have to wait in line for several days to receive it. Algerian security forces have arrested 4 people accused of killing 2 policemen. During the investigation, they found knives, ammunition, and equipment for building homemade bombs. Reuters reports that 99 supporters of the Islamic Salvation Front have been arrested so far. On the control line in Kashmir, which divides Pakistani from Indian territory, the situation remains tense. 12 people died in conflicts there. 10 Pakistani soldiers were wounded. The Indian Interior Ministry says that Indian forces did not use force along the border. In the middle of January, the funds for building housing for our military forces which are leaving Germany were blocked. This was officially confirmed today. Russia and Ukraine cannot agree on where to build the military housing with the German marks, which have been devoted to this task. Ukraine Economic Minister Muliman said in Kiev that Ukraine will accept the troops if the apartments for them are already built. Bonn expressed its position on the hottest issue, which is our demand for simultaneous compensation for our military facilities in former East Germany. General Burlakov told Stern magazine that our construction is valued at 10.5 billion marks, and our work on cleanup of pollution has taken 2.5 billion marks. Therefore, he says Germany owes us 8 billion marks. The Germans believe that each of these facilities should be sold on the local market, and then after ecological cleanup, if anything remains, and this is not likely, then we would receive it. This approach was proposed in the Soviet-German agreement. This is not contradicted by the most recent agreement, but is rather a tactical approach. We have sad news today. Academician Nikolai Bogolyubov died today. He was a mathematician and a theoretical physicist, the founder of scientific schools of linear mechanics and theoretical physics. For a quarter century, he was the head of the Unified Nuclear Research Institute. Nikolai Bogolyubov was a member of many foreign academies. Today at 2 p.m. Moscow time, from a U.S. military Air Force base in Ohio, the round-the-world balloon trip was to begin. by 2 Americans and 1 Russian. These are Lauren Newman, Don Moses, and Vladimir Dzinibegov. However, the flight has been postponed until tomorrow because of the heavy snowfall. Another reason may be the superstitions of the pilots. Today is the 13th, after all. We would now like to show you some of the preliminary shots of the flight, which will begin tomorrow. Meteorologists have known that for a long time that at a height of 9 to 14 kilometers, there is a river of air which flows along the 40th degree of latitude around the entire globe. Larry Newman began preparing for this round-the-world trip on the jet stream years ago, but faced many technical and organizational problems. One of them was that the jet stream flows over part of the former USSR, and our so-called competent organs refused to approve the expedition. Then Lauren Newman invited a Soviet pilot, the cosmonaut Vladimir Dzinibegov. Then approval was received, and the project was called Glasnost. It was to take place in 1990, but then the Persian Gulf War began, and the pilots feared that their balloon would be taken for a hostile aircraft and shot down. The pilots worked on new technical innovations, and the flight was again postponed for a year. This is a completely new school, completely different from our space exploration programs, and I believe that in the future the influence of American ideas and experience will be very useful to us, and both in our space programs as well. The balloon will be airborne for between 2 and 3 weeks and will cover 30,000 kilometers. The pilots will conduct several scientific experiments, both for us and for the Americans. The project is called Earth-Wind. It's being financed from our side by the Military Industrial Investment Company, by the American hotel company Hilton, the Japanese company Canon, and the British Air Company. There are also smaller other sponsors. This report shows us that people can be interested not only in politics and their daily problems. The shows of the director Vikchuk are a shining star in our theater. His theater has existed for over a year but still has no space. He has received temporary refuge in the theater of the Russian Information Center, where his play had its premiere last night. Even with luxurious decorations and costumes, we cannot love each other if there is evil within us. This simple truth was expressed in the choreography of Edward Smirnov, which left almost no room for words in the play. Roman Vikchuk has worked in many of the other theaters in Moscow, but he was officially disapproved before, and now he is enjoying the confidence of many spectators in Moscow. He believes that all the female roles in this play should be played by men. And he has created a new star by doing this, Leonid Lutvinsky. Mr. Vikchuk, the journalists call you a wandering star. This is your second play, and maybe your theater will finally be permanently born. What is the credo of your new theater? If I had to say a credo, I would say that if Dostoevsky said that beauty will save the world, I think today we need to save beauty. Today was the 5-kilometer women's cross-country race. Jelena Valba believed she had a good chance, but she was overcome at the finish by Maria Lukarinen of Finland. Now on the track is Lyubov Yegorova, who was fighting for her second gold medal, but missed it only by a moment. She was 0.9 seconds behind the leader. She got the silver and Valba won the bronze. The first 6 medals of today's skiing competition have been awarded. Here's the 10-kilometer skiing event. Here's the Italian Mark Albarello finishing. He was the leader at the time, but then the Olympic champion Vegard Ulvang came. The Norwegian beat him by 12 seconds, becoming the Olympic champion. Our best sprinter was Mikhail